Welcome to the Transfer Exchange Show. We are live and we are back. Well, we are back with Alan Moore on cue. That was perfect timing there, Alan. How are you doing?
Very good. Great to see you, because of course I heard you last night and now I can see you like in the fresh English morning.
In the flesh. Yes, it is a very English morning. It's a bit miserable out there. It's a bit grey, it's a bit wet, but hopefully we're going to brighten up that day with some transfer news today. Hey, people. All right. We've just had Darren Lewis in and now we've got Alan Moore. Transfers this morning. Steve just heard that Liverpool potentially talking to Schalke about Ozan Kabak. Good signing there, Steve. I know you're a big fan.
Oh, this is the guy. We've been following this transfer for a long while. Was told about 2 months ago that Liverpool were looking at Ozan Kabak. Went very quiet. I got excited because I just see the player just by chance in a clip, and then all of a sudden clubs started coming in from him. I think it was probably to do with my video that I put out there. I think the clubs all had a look at that.
Maybe it was. They saw your scouting skills. Is that what it was? They saw your scouting skills and thought this guy is the man for Liverpool. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I thought exactly.
Well, I'm expecting commission on that then.
He's a top player. He's a fantastic player, and he'd be perfect for Liverpool.
All right. One bit of transfer news I did see this morning, Alan, is Celtic potentially looking at former Sochi midfielder Gianelli in Bula. Do you know much about him? Good player? Would he be a good player for Celtic?
Yeah, I think so. There's Sochi, we call them Gazprom B team. They are the reserve team from Gazprom. They serve Gazprom, of course, who owns Zenit. They also own Sochi. Sochi is a pet project for Zenit because, again, down the south coast, it was a World Cup venue. Of course, it was the Winter Olympics host in 2014, and known for lots of other reasons, like for the little mouse hole where they're exchanging, urine and so on and so forth. But yeah, always like the that we were told that were happening. He's a good player. I would say would he be an impact player? No, I don't think he'd be an impact player. He's a decent player here. I would see he's more as a development player, or not even development player, because his age isn't kind of on that profile. He's decent. Celtic's level has dropped a wee bit, so it could suit them. But he's okay. But I would never see him as a player that you really need in the club. He's not quite good enough for the SPL level, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, it looks like he had a little time at Stoke, but then moved on from there. And West Ham are currently linked with Spartak Moscow goalkeeper Alexander Maximenko.
Maximenko, yeah. Possibly one of the better Russian keepers. Spartak have had in the last little while. They've always had good keepers. Mm-hmm. There is a kind of as they say, dearth or a lack of quality goalkeepers in Russian football. Of course, we had Igor Akinfeev for a long time, and he's still not an old man. He's got another year and a half, I think, in his contract with CSKA. But he's preparing himself now for retirement. Lovely fella. Interviewed him there last May, I think it was, and met him a couple of times, over the years. Very, very nice guy. Bit strange, but nice. Well, goalkeeper's strange. In totality, you don't have to sorry about that, but he's a very good player. I think he'd suit English football very, very well. He's got a good kick in him, good distribution. The only thing that he would lack overall would be possibly his reaction. Sometimes can be not great. Now it could be worked upon. He can be trained. He needs to up his game a little bit. He's had a lot of work behind a sort of a so-so back four in Spartak. has had a few injuries, but he's not injury prone. He would kind of like, he'd remind you a little bit of, if you remember, McCloskey.
Ludwig McCloskey.
Yeah.
He's in that kind of mode. He's not a Phil Parks. He's not a guy who's like big and strong, can claim the ball and then like, chuck it the length of the field with one hand. He's not like that. But he is a decent player, a decent keeper. Could he make it? Could he be good enough to start now? No, but he's a good backup to have. And I would say that if he goes to West Ham in this transfer window, by next season, I wouldn't be worried about him starting between the sticks. He's good enough for that. He's probably one of the better Russian goalkeepers, but he needs to get out of Russia to improve.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing where there's the level of talent in Russia seems to be good, but they stay in Russia. Why is that?
I mean, I've written about this before, guys, and we discussed it. Like we discussed it on the show as well, here and on Capital. One of the issues is this comfort zone. There's a lot for the amount of talent and the amount of competition. There is a lot of professional teams on the go here. I mean, over 100, and while we think 100 is like normal and it's a very, very big country, big population, the salaries are quite poor, but compared to what they would get outside, and then balancing with the work, it doesn't measure up, because basically they can they can earn more for doing less here than abroad, and the challenge and the responsibility isn't put on them outside. So it is remaining in a comfort zone. Some of the very, very talented players. You remember Arshavin, who was an extremely talented player.
Yes.
He went to England, did well at first, but he was kind of a one-trick pony who, put it in Dad's Army, he didn't like it up. And he didn't. You put a boot into him, you put a shoulder into him, or give him a slap on the head, he hung out on the wing. Took all free kicks, corners, even throw-ins. He even would go back and take goal kicks. That was his mentality, that he didn't like to go in and put his body on the line. Again, in Russia, he didn't have that because he left people more protective. So if you sort of like give a bad look to a player and he goes on the ground, bang, so it is that kind of issue that the Russian players aren't pushed as much. We've seen Kokorin, for example, who went to Fiorentina.
Yes.
For them. We discussed them before last night again. We discussed it with Andrew Flint on our show, and Kokorin is a really talented player. He's a head case. He's an excellent player, but he's mad.
Yeah.
He's a really talented, hard-working player, but he is off rails. So you have to balance that. What can he do? He can do brilliant, but he's kind of he's probably waited too long. We've heard of Alan Zagorev. We discussed it before here, yourself and myself. He's a player who, if he had moved 5 years ago to Arsenal, he would now be playing possibly for Man City. He would have gone with Arteta. He would have, Arteta would have taken him to Man City and kept him there because he's a brilliant player. But again, he kind of stayed here a long time. He had a comfort zone. He's winning caps for Russia, getting a great salary, especially bother moving. So the salaries have come down in Russia, and that's why I think we see some players start to look abroad. With taxes, it's better for them to go outside of Russia. But again, there is still that kind of, it's not laziness, it's this comfort zone. And fortunately, we're all going to have everything I need here.
But you could kind of, I mean, if the salaries over in England weren't so good, I mean, I don't know how many English players would move abroad as well, because we've had that thing over here where not many players, up until recently, many players are playing abroad. But now you're seeing a bit more of an influx going to maybe Germany or Portugal or stuff like that. But previously, no English players or British players used to play abroad.
Very, very few. I mean, we can name them from our childhood. We know the guys who went abroad. Mark Haley went abroad, Ray Wilkins went abroad.
Ian Rush.
Irish lads as well. Frank Staple go to Ajax.
Brady,
John Byrne. I used to play with QPR, and he went over to Le Havre on the continent. Part of it is language, part of it is kind of like comfort, and you're near your friends and you don't get homesick. We see Tony Woodcock, who I met working over in Germany. Or it's a brilliant career. Kevin Keegan at any time could go back to Germany and get a job. He is adored in Germany. They love him,
Still.
Yeah, still not up, but just in Hamburg. Tony Woodcock worked with German clubs, was loved there, but he kind of went into it. Yeah. One of the issues that in Russia that kind of, I'll ask you one thing. It's like if you I'll ask you both. Like, if you're offered a salary, for example, so let's just put it at $5,000. So $5,000 a month to play football for a second tier club. You think, okay, that's not so bad. The tax is only 13%, but the club said, no, hold on now. We're gonna pay you officially the minimum, which will be $800. The other $4,200. That's on another contract, and we'll pay that in cash. Would you sign contracts?
Are they both they legally binding, or is this second contract it's under the table? That's the worry. Why are you going to end up getting paid this £800 outside the 4-year deal?
Exactly. You pay a 4-year deal, and they say we're letting you go, and you say, okay, that's great. I've got 2 years left in the contract. That's what, 60,000. That's 120 grand. Thank you very much. You're going, no, sorry, it's 800. You go to court, and immediately you're only paying tax on your 800. So if you then say, well, no, it was also this contract, you have to pay tax on what you paid as well. So players kind of go, okay, and they shut up and they take the payoff and they let it go. Yeah. And even the footballers union, who, as you know, I assist with here, and we speak about it with players. I spoke about it with players when I worked with them, going, do not sign sign for a lesser amount. Even when I work with a management company, we say, sign for a lesser amount. We'll take less. We'll get less money, of course, but we know the money will be there. And if we go to court, we have the contract. It's like, it's signed. It's okay. So this is the issue with Russian players. They're not sure how to do it. They signed their contracts, and for example, Tambov, who are playing in the Russian Premier League, the players haven't been paid since September last year, and it even went to the point where they were going on mini strikes. And the problem is that they were being funded by the government. Their own stadium was too small and too unsafe for the Premier League, and it's a city centre stadium, so they can't expand it. It's okay to play a cup game, for example, there when they played Zenit, but they couldn't play in the Premier League there, so they had to travel to Saransk, which is quite a track away, and rent the stadium there. So there are these issues here. So Russian players will sign the contract worth, on paper like 800, but then get the cash payment, and when the cash payment doesn't come through, they don't have the binding documents there to get.
And is there a lot of them that do that, Alan?
They do, and you know what? It's not just here in Russia. I dealt with that in Malta as well, where the foreign players will come in. There's a lad, Sunday Wasu, who played. I think he played with Dagenham and a couple of teams in England. Absolutely terrific player. And I remember they wanted him to sign the dual contract. One, which was the base minimum for the league, was €500, and then he'd get another amount then on top of that, like a second contract, which wouldn't be registered anywhere, that he'd get like basically cash every month. And I remember saying to him in the club, I said, no, hold on, I'm director of the club, you don't sign that contract with the club secretary. You sign the full contract for the full amount or not at all. And some they did. But it was that kind of balance. People were kind of arguing, no, it's okay, you don't do it. And that's in Malta. In Ireland, it's been exposed a couple of times as well. Shelburne did it. Derry City admitted not too long ago that they were doing it as well, because one of the directors of the club turned around and said, wait, the first contract we signed with the player was okay. The second contract wasn't binding or stuff like that. So it's like, well, in Russia it is quite common, not in all clubs, but in quite a few clubs.
It's very dangerous for the younger players, I would have thought, because it's very easy to sort of, unless you've got someone, by the side of you, who's guiding you in the right direction. It's very easy for the younger ones to go, I'll have some of that.
Take the money.
And take the money.
That's it. That's it. And as I said, especially when it comes up to the end of the transfer signing period, like when you have to write the end of the registration period before the season, and guys panic, and clubs deliberately delay signing the contract until the last day. Now, it's kind of like who plays chicken, we play chicken. Who pulls out first? Where the player and the club, or the agent of the club, we do that, and I saw that as well. We kind of left it, but I always wanted players that we were dealing with signed, done. That they can rest, they can put their mind at rest, they can be at peace, and they already prepared themselves to start playing. Other players, other agents, they would delay it, and then the clubs turn around. They say, 2 hours before deadline, before they had to sign the contract to send them into the new office, they delay, and then say, okay, now we sign. And they're like, oh, we're not going to sign for 100. Honestly, 100. The worst I saw was $100 US per month. This is worth a lot more here. As in, the ruble was in a better value. $100 a month and $1,900. $2,000 was the whole contract for a third-tier club, second division club, and the guy panicked and signed it.
What?
Yeah, he panicked and signed $100 guaranteed per month, and $1,900 then he'd be getting in cash every month. After 2 months, and I told him, this is in August, I said, listen, his name was Vladimir, I said, Vladimir, don't sign this. I'm telling you, don't sign it. And we left, said, look, we'll get you another club, don't worry, we'll get you outside of Russia. We got time. And we're lining up a club in Latvia, we're lining up a club in Ireland as well. We had a trial, thanks to Liam Buckley, over in Pats in Dublin. And next thing then, he signs the contract here. Our lawyer and says, I've signed it, I've sent you now by email. We're like, what did you sign? And we saw it, and we're like, idiot. But again, he panicked. He was 20 years old, had been playing under 16, under 18 for Russia, had an injury and sort of then dropped out of the Dynamo Academy, and then ended up doing that. But his career finished up a year and a half later. He went back to study. But it was that kind of thing, as you said, Steve, a young player needs someone sitting beside him going, it's not worth it.
Do you feel that there's a lot of players in Russia, especially the young ones, that should be leaving the Russian league and going to another country? I mean, for instance, like Germany. I mean, they seem to be excellent at bringing through youngsters. I mean, America have sort of picked them out as a place to go to, and at the moment, there's some of the best young players in the world now. All of a sudden, they're America. I mean, Russia. I mean, why can't they be the same?
Steve, they can and they should. The biggest issue we have here, again, is that lads, you can earn a decent salary. So, for example, you're earning $1,000 a month playing for a third-tier club here. The average local salary, decent local salary for a decent office worker, could be $500 a month. You have your girlfriend, you go out and you smoke the hubbly bubbly, the shisha, you're kind of like a big man in town. 200-300 people come to watch in the stadium, you get everything looked after, you're basically put up in a hotel. You think your life is okay, but you don't progress. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're not working with the leagues, you're stuck. You are stuck, you don't go nowhere. We tried even getting players to Ireland, for example. We've got a few Latvian players who were good enough to play here in the second tier in Russia, young lads, and we're getting them across. And then they ended up they they went to Oldham, for example. One lad did okay, but there was no progress there. Like he was getting reserve team games, few first team games, but we said go to play in the Irish Premier League. You'll be playing against lads who are coming back from English academies. Guys who are, as we know, quite a few Irish players came back from England 18, 19, rebuilt themselves and went back across, like, Keith Bahy, for example. There's quite a few of them Stephen Rice, who was in Arsenal, like all these lads who kind of developed themselves. Germany's a good one as well, but I think that Germany's under such demand, and Russian agents, the vast majority of agents here don't see any further than the border. Only if a player takes on his own initiative, or has relatives, for example, they go to Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia sometimes, or Scandinavia. But it's, you've got a few of them like Cheryshev, whose father was playing down in Spain and took him to Spain. And then Cheryshev is a very, very good player, but he kept through the Spanish system, and he developed himself there. And you can see the difference when he walks back and plays here. He's unbelievably good. A few guys who are, they were like rather Russian born, but emigrated very, very young to Germany. They've been able to develop, but the system here isn't bad. You've got a couple of great academies like we spoke with before, with Dinamo, for example. Spartak can be so. They can be very, very, very hit or miss. Lokomotiv and Dinamo are two of the best. CSKA have a good habit of bringing through young players, but then like Fyodor Chalov, who realistically, if this was an ideal world, we'd be talking about Fyodor Chalov negotiating with, Man City, Liverpool, who want to bring in like a really impact striker, a guy who can make and take goals. We'd be speaking of Fyodor Chalov. Instead, he's in training camp with CSKA Moscow, and with no hope in the future. So this is only a young fellow who has so much potential, so much talent, but he's broken. And we should ideally be
bad habits,
but he's not.
Well, as just talking about youth systems, I see that Andrei Sharman's actually working with the Zenit St. Petersburg youth system. He actually says that to really know whether a player's good enough, I have to get involved in the training and train with them.
That says what we were saying, wasn't it? With the guidance
isn't a bad thing, but maybe a player like Ashavin, where he has played outside of Russia, maybe he could have a good influence on these youngsters, and maybe you could be seeing some of these play outside of Russia in the future.
I hope so, because again, Andrei, he went to Kazakhstan and played 2 seasons there and did very, very well. It was the end of his career. The standard of the league in Kazakhstan isn't brilliant, but some of the clubs do quite well. Like, I mean, they've got some decent players as well, good facilities, good coaches. So he did well there. So if he can encourage players to do it, there's a lot of Russians. Alexis Smirtin, for example, who played with Chelsea and with Fulham, and in France as well. He's come back, and when he was with Dinamo here, and the director of the club, he was always telling young players, look, go abroad on a loan. Don't be afraid. If you're 18, 19, instead of dropping down to divisions in Russia, go abroad. Go to a smaller league abroad to test yourself. Spend a year there. Most players, because he did that. He came up to Dinamo. Dinamo was his club, and his brother was playing there. He went up, and they said, too small, too light, not good enough. So he went back to Siberia, trained, played, went down to lower division, and worked his way back up. Worked his way up until, after he'd retired, Dinamo were like, you're the ideal example. The same with Dmitry Sychov as well, another terrific talent who is a massive fan of Liverpool, who always wanted to play with Liverpool, but never had the chance. Played in France, did a great job in France, got dogged by injuries then later on in his career, but a player who was just absolute genius, broke through a young fella, but again was messed around, wanted to leave, had to leave Russia because Spartak were hunting him down, but again, it's this. He kept to Zenit Academy as well. And as he said, like at the time, he had no one to put an arm around his shoulder and say, do this or do this. So now, as you say, some of these players who played abroad, who are, globally recognized players, this could help the next generation or the current generation that will come through.
So that's a great point. What just Adam, sorry, quickly, what Adam said about leaving, like going to the lower leagues in Europe, because there's some excellent, players coming out the lower leagues in Europe. I mean, we've brought up a few from the Austrian league, from the Belgian league, that have come from other countries that have gone to those leagues, have come out and are now playing in the Premiership. And it just needs someone, doesn't it? It just needs someone to grab hold of it. It's such a shame, especially with young players,
But that's it. No, see, you've nailed it, because your players, if they have players from Russia have gone and are playing in, like they've played, for example, in the Czech league. They played a couple has played in Holland and Belgium. So you've got like Austria, Switzerland, Belgium, Holland, Czech league, even the League of Ireland. You put yourself in a shop window, and we look at the League of Ireland teams. The likes of Dundalk are fully professional. Shamrock Rovers fully professional. And I remember when we had an Armenian international who had played the top flight in Armenia, was an absolute genius on the ball. Very light, short, and took him, like he had an offer to go to Serbia, but it never was going to come through, come to fruition. Took him over to St. Pat's. He trained with St. Pat's. Very, very good player. But immediately his mentality was, I'm too good for this level. And it's like, which stays on like, no, but not really. You need to prove yourself here. They took him to Shelbourne at the time, were at the bottom of the table. Johnny McDonald, I think, was coaching there. And we got him training with Shelbourne, and because we sort of like looked at Pats, and Pats were like, look, he's been stroppy, kind of was going, he actually said, I'm too good for Pats. He said to a couple of players. And the players then were like, okay, here, sort yourself out. Yeah. Went to Shells, played a couple of games, and the Shells were going, this guy is very, very good, very, very talented. If he stays with us until the end of the season, the next thing then he'll be like, he will be like, going to the English Premier League or to Holland. He can pick and choose his league. But the whole attitude was, I want to go back. I'm too good for this. So he went back to Armenia, signed for like small money with a small club, and that was it. His career, I think his career petered out after that. But that was the mentality. It was like, I'm too good for this. So
it's an important thing where players need to understand the pathway. If you've not made it here, there's always a pathway. There's always a route, and there's a lot of players that do the blueprint. They go through. They get released from the club. They go to a club in the Conference South. They go to that, get spotted there, and you'll see they've gone from team to team, season after season. Some will join in summer and move in January. I mean, we had Joan Luque on in the summer where he moved to Maidstone. He got an offer from Weymouth. And he's moved up a league now, and in January, potentially, if he does well with them, if they go up or whatever, you never know. And that's the thing. If you go the path which will sort of take you into the right team, and if they're not going to choose that, then they're sort of ending it there.
What do you do?
I could give an example. A guy that I can't say I won't say dealt with. That sounds a bit too informal. Worked with in Malta. Donovan Simmons, who came to, he played with Coventry, Kilmarnock. I forget the club he came through with. It might be QPR, but I could be wrong on that. And came to Malta, and you could see he had fallings out in a couple of clubs, but was a very, very talented player. Very and a nice. I got on great with him. Liked a lot. He was same time as a Canny Sunday was too, and his kind of thing was like, well, I've played at this level. I've played 20 games for Kilmarnock. I've played for Coventry. That's the level I should be at. And then he's in Malta having to battle, to struggle for bits and bobs. And I remember his brother, Jason came out to visit. He's a rugby guy, and he came out and said, no, Donovan needs to realize that if he gets recognised here, does a good job in Malta, he can go back, because the club that I was at the time I was working with. Can you remember a player moving from England to Malta and then moving back to a second tier championship team in England, who then ended up in the Premier League? Do you know who that is?
I was going to say Kevin Muscat, but I don't think he played in the Premier League, did he?
No, you got me.
He ended up playing. I think he's still on the books in Everton.
No, I don't
Bonafide.
Oh, he did, didn't he? He's at Middlesbrough now. He did, and he's Latvia. He went Malta. He was all over the place. Yes, he did.
Back to Plymouth Argyle.
Yes,
we negotiated a deal with Plymouth, and he got a decent. We got a decent fee for that. I was working with Florian at the time. Got a decent fee, and then he moved his way back up. Now I remember, and this is an interesting one down in Malta. So we're playing against Valletta, and the season was kind of tapering out. Like we sort of had a great start, but then the usual salaries unpaid after New Year and so on, and matches been sold left, right, and centre. Yannick was there playing Yala, and he was every game we went out and played a great game. The Maltese boys, and one of the Macedonia player we had as well, excellent player, they were in on the fix. They were basically going, if we lose this match against Valletta, we get paid. And it was, everyone knew. The fans didn't even show up. It was just, everyone knew what was going to happen. Yala went out and played. He covered every bloody blade of grass on the field that day, chased down everything. Twice he was going through on goal, and his own player ran across him. Like literally ran across him. And I was like, oh no. And I just flown in from Germany, I think it was, for the game. And I sit up in the stand with the direction, going, what the hell is going on? I was only working with the development club, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? He's lightning fast, lovely skill in the ball. And he came through, ball was being played in late, ball was being played in early. And the guys were literally refusing to pass to him when he's like, it was awful. And I remember afterwards in the dressing room, the guy, he's only young, I think maybe 18, 19 at the time, sitting in tears, thinking that he played the worst game of his life, that he was at fault, that I would say, no, it's not you. It's like, it's not you, it's me. It's not you, it's them. I was like, you're all right. Don't worry about it. You had a great game. He got the highest rating of all the players on the field.
Yeah.
The Times of Malta always get the rating. They gave him the highest rating of all the players on the league on the field. The fans afterwards, we watch it live on TV. Fans were saying like he's a line of a player. And I remember sitting with the directors afterwards, and so I think we need to just organise a service because this is a disgrace. And they're like, oh, it's okay, he's proved himself. And there was a couple of scouts from England, they were looking at it thinking, geez, this kid's very, very good. So everybody knew. They were like, he took up the right positions, everything right. But again, it goes to show that players can do that. Like you said, Kieran, a player can, move out of a Premier Academy and go, right, I'm going to go to Spain, or I'm going to go to Germany, I'll go and prove myself and build myself back up. It's not the end of the world. Unfortunately, clubs are to blame because they can explain it and they can help as much as they can. Agents, of course, need to explain it. But I think ultimately the player needs to have that bit of drive.
Yes, definitely.
I think he was, I forget which club he was released from, but he was playing with Hillingdon, I think it was Hillingdon Borough, and came out to Malta. And people were saying, this guy is worth something. And I remember it was, who was the former manager for Dagenham and Redbridge? John.
Oh, not John Sinton.
No, John. I forget what his name is, but he's here a couple of spells. But he recommended Sunday Was You to us and said, like this guy is unbelievably good. And Sunday they went on. He went on to play in China.
Yeah,
played
Colchester, Luton,
pardon?
Florina.
Sorry,
In America, he played. Yeah, he played all over the place.
Yeah,
St Albans. Yeah,
yeah, and he made money. He made money for himself and his family. He, you know, he went to Lithuania as a young fella, Poland and Lithuania, and was good. Like the only problem, he was a line of a player, just a real leader. You know, big strong fella, an amazing striker, scored lots of goals, except he couldn't head the ball to save his life.
it's always fun.
He wasn't afraid. It was just the ball would come in, or whatever it was. He was. If somebody's watching this, he can correct me on this, but he was slightly short-sighted, so he would mistime his header. And there was times when I saw the ball being put. There's a fellow who played for us called Buckley. Can't think of his name. His nickname is Buckley, a Maltese lad, small, skinny lad. He put in 2 or 3 gorgeous crosses in for Sunday to nod home. Like literally, keeper had missed it, coming into him, and he just hit the top of his head, hit the back of his head, you know. And he was a player who just horsed into every single game, and he was an amazing player, but and a great guy as well, absolute gentleman of a guy. I always loved dealing with him. Always give you good, honest, like goal, and he put manners on players as well. I remember playing Valletta, and the guys were just like panicking. Like we had like 2 guys got injured in literally same patch of the field, badly injured. Like I mean, season-ending injuries, and we ended up losing 4-0. I think it was 5-0. And I remember before the game, all the players going, "Oh, this is Valletta. They're really, really good. They're really, really good." And a lot of pressure. And so Sunday was like kind of. I'm not going to do the accent because, like, and he laughed his head off. He thought I did very well, but he's like, kind of like, "This is Valletta. Who do you think we're playing? This isn't Arsenal." And that's what he said. This isn't Arsenal. This isn't Real Madrid. This is Valletta. No, I could say Valletta. This is Valletta. And he's like, the guys are all sitting there kind of, you know, all nervous. And then he's like, "Get up, look at me, be a man. Where's your," you know.
Oh, I love that.
They went out at the start of the match. They went out and they battered Valletta off the field. They hit the crossbar, and then also one of the guys who we bought in, not Christian Caruana, did his knee, and he was gone. He hit the crossbar, had one cleared off the line, and then just twisted, did his knee, and was out. Then one of our central defenders, who's a Maltese international, Nigerian born, he twisted, just basically won the ball, and as he's twisting to play it out of defence, did his knee as well. So we basically were down, had we'd like 4 injuries in 15 minutes. 2 season-ending knees and 1 concussion, and so basically, and we'd nothing to bring off the bench, 0. And then of course, referee. There was one guy that it was VAR. It would the guy was standing beside the goalkeeper and the ball's played to him, you know, and flicked it past the keeper. The keeper was almost wanted to bury him, but sort of stood like this. The guy was beside him, offside, and. Of course, our coach Roddy Collins used to be, of course, the manager of Carlisle. He was like, "We'll go and attack." And even when we're 1-0 down, 2-0 down, 3-0 down, we were still attacking, hitting the crossbar. Like Sunday was leading the lot. It was just like if we scored 1 goal, we'd score 10.
Is it leader?
And after that game, the season was suspended. I think the season was suspended right after that game. And it was just kind of everything then changed around, because we basically the season was suspended because one team, Marshallschlock, who had, I forget who was coaching them, was an ex-Arsenal player based in Malta, with Graham Ricks, or no, not Graham Ricks.
Oh, maybe he did do a bit of managing all over the place, yeah.
So it was anyway, he coached Marshallschlock to the title. They got to the title or to the second place, and they got to the Champions League and so on. But then it was found that they didn't pay, that there was some like dodgy match or something like that, and then they got kicked out of the Premier League, and then they had to reform it. So it was this, but that was a segue. That actually bought us time to sort of get our team back together. And we were a great run. We were top by Christmas. We were top of the league. But it was like this. It was guys. Donovan had left. Unfortunately, he left the club. He went back to someone in England. But it was kind of Sunday who'd moved around, but like saw Malta as a way to get a better contract.
Yeah,
and actually did it. Like, so it was kind of we were unique at that season. We were playing with just, at the time, there were only 3 foreigners in the whole club, and we played with 2. So it was kind of, we just stuck with it, and it was good. But again, players can do it. They can refine their path if you just have a bit of bottle, like, you know.
Yeah, as long as they find their pathway.
Yeah.
On that note, Alan, as always, what a pleasure of a guest. Thank you for coming on.
Incredible.
It's great to talk to you guys. I'm sitting here in the university office at the moment. So I've got there's people, I know there's people in the outside office, like my assistant is there, and she's been messaging me here on the phone going, Alan, your 2 o'clock is here. Your 2 o'clock is here, and I'm glad. So great stuff.
Guys, thank you very much for your time, Alan.
I'll be tuning in later on this evening. Once I finish work, I'll be logging in at 7 o'clock to have a listen and watch.
Yeah, we've got some good guests on, so hopefully you enjoy it.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Thanks again, Alan.
Take care, Alan. All right, thank you very much. Bye. All right, thank you very much for Alan Moore there. As always, plenty of stories. I'm sure you can go and look back, and Alan Moore, great storyteller. He's always got a story about a footballer because he's like the players' representatives and works with agents and works with managers and goes to all the clubs around Russia. So really good guy to know. Go and give him a follow. His Twitter handle is.
And any young expiring footballers out there, listen to what Alan just said. Take it.
Yeah, and if you're in Russia, give him a shout. He might be able to help you find a club. All right, that's us for now. We'll be back at 12 o'clock.
Just a quick transfer things. Just a couple of what I would call important ones. Winston Reid has signed for Brentford. So that might have something that might interest Alan. And we've got Celtic looking at signing on loan Japhet Tantanga from Spurs, which and he's a very, very good centre half, and I'm sure Jamie and Abby will have something to say about that tonight at 7 o'clock.
All right, so make sure you join us later on at 7 o'clock with Abby Summers and Jamie Brown. We also, don't forget, we've got Ben Forney on at 8:30. 5 o'clock, we've got South American experts. And at 12 o'clock, the next guest at 12 o'clock, we've got Kevin Parker of the Manchester City Supporters Club. Thank you very much for joining us in our morning show. We'll catch you this afternoon. Peace out. Stay safe.